This is the Nassaman Hockey Podcast with James Nichols and John Zella.
Welcome back to NHP. I'm John Zella, always with James Nichols from the fourth period. What's going on?
You know, same old, same old. Bought a nice new jacket today I was just telling you about, and that's really all I can think about because even though I'm now inside, when I put it on for the first time today, like I told you earlier, I felt just like I was being hugged all day, and I feel like I want that again. And I know I'm inside. I don't need to wear a jacket, but I might want to.
You're making it sound like a straitjacket a little bit.
No,
I know
not,
it's a Carhartt.
Yeah,
but it sounds
nice
like,
and
oh,
fuzzy
I love this fuzzy.
on the
Just gives me a
inside.
hug.
It's got like a hood with the fuzzy in the hood, you know,
Yeah.
and it's cool because like the sleeves, they come like over your hands, but like also there's cuffs that like hug your wrists, and it's just like I'm comfortable, you know.
They are comfortable. I didn't think that was a Long Island, New York City thing. I thought that was a very central New York. That is the central New York North Face. North Faces are very New York.
Well, I'll tell you what,
or a metro area.
The Carhartt brand is now becoming like a style for people now.
It is. It was like if for anyone that was in middle school in 2002, Dickies was that for a short time.
Right. Yeah.
We all just got black and gray Dickies.
Yeah.
That was
still
fun.
wear them.
I haven't owned a pair of Dickies in 20 years.
Still got them.
I really do not enjoy that I can say what I just said without having to exaggerate. It's literally been 20 years since I've owned it.
Yeah, no, like
pair
if I'm
of
doing
Dickies.
something like physical that I need to get a little dirty, I wear them.
Yeah, I remember going to Bob's stores. That's where I bought my Dickies because they were like low key like punk skater store.
Yeah.
So I would get all my weird stuff there. When I wasn't wearing UFO pants, don't look that up. It's embarrassing for everybody. It's better that we all forget that. There's no nostalgia for that whatsoever.
I need to see.
Oh, they were so
no, I need
ridiculous.
to see you in them.
Oh, absolutely not. I do not own them anymore.
You better hope I don't find it. I'm tweeting that if I do.
No, luckily, so technology is such an amazing thing. Boy, am I happy that didn't exist 20 years ago. Just because no one needed to see. There's like very rare pictures of like maybe kind of even later, like maybe 2004 or 5. I think I have like 6 actual printed pictures of myself from that time, and that I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
if I'm a sight for sore eyes now, I was worse then.
I mean, listen, we all went through that awkward phase, I think, right? I definitely had an awkward phase where it's funny now that I think about it, but like if I had my mindset back then, I probably would have asked myself, what am I doing? I was wearing Guy Fieri flame print shirts all the time.
Did you work at a diner after school?
I mean, I was in like 5th grade, maybe middle school.
I mean, but I don't know.
Yikes.
I wasn't much better.
Why, Dad, did you let me do that, Mom?
I was wearing Famous Stars and Straps t-shirt.
Oh, yeah, I had that phase.
High black socks a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird. We were trying, like, we just like got the internet and we're like, what is punk stuff? Like literally typing that into Google. And like Tom DeLonge wears Dickies and long black socks.
I need that silver studded belt more than I need air.
Dude, I feel like I still have scars on my hands and waist from those belts. Because eventually they would just fall apart. And the little pokey things would just like it was just like your jeans and this like piece of sharp metal. I probably needed an extra like 4 or 5 tetanus shots.
The amount of times I've told my mom it's not a phase, it's a lifestyle. You'll never understand.
I'll give my mom all the credit in the world for just like letting that happen and just like being cool with it. And then eventually it just kind of like went away.
Yep. Grew up. Still kind of wear the clothing. Like I wear Vans all the time.
Yeah. As I sit here like wearing a Vans t-shirt.
Yeah. I'm a Vans style beanie kind of guy.
Yeah, I think we just became hipsters. That's just what happened. We went early 2000s punk hardcore kids just became hipsters. We
I
drink
don't
French press coffee and
I don't know if I was ever a
like the
hipster.
fishermen.
I don't think I ever actually left my emo phase. I
Oh,
still
I
listen to,
think
like, Knuckle Puck all the time, like,
it's
it's so
interesting.
good.
I was the last time I got a haircut, I was talking to my barber. And I was like, I think I'm in my phase now musically where I'm unapologetically listening and liking things.
Yeah.
Like Mayday Parade's first full length record is really good.
Yeah.
I don't care. I
Yep.
don't feel weird. I will also listen to like Have Heart and you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I don't care
I
about
listened to
that.
Wage War today, and that was
I didn't
at
listen
the
to any
gym.
music today. That was
I
terrible.
I listened to Wage War today, and that was a couple after at the gym, a couple hours after I was at work listening to Gwen Stefani and No Doubt. So that's my spectrum.
Yeah,
It's like,
I've been all
whoa.
over the place with that lately. Kind of like Johnny Booth comes on, or Every Time
Yeah.
I Die, and I'm in kind of that counterparts or
Yeah.
anything, you know. And then I kind of just go to very light indie or like straight up a dude playing a grand piano,
Right.
and I'm like loving
Yeah.
that to death. So yeah, but even just like old, like all time low, like stupid music that's like objectively very not very good. I'm like, no, I like this.
Yeah.
I don't need to care about that. Uh, like whatever you want is what we're saying. But this is a hockey podcast.
Oh, right.
There's not a lot for us to talk about moving forward.
Why is that?
Um, the Islanders don't play for some time. I don't want to spoil
Oh.
a whole lot, so we'll get to that. But we do have a little bit of time, maybe this episode and next week before we have any actual games to speak of.
Yeah.
There may be some returning folks. Um, One of those people for the Islanders isn't a player. It's Barry Trotz.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not unsurprisingly, and not that it's anyone's business. Barry Trotz is out with a personal matter. Um, we wish him well. There's
Yeah.
not a whole lot to say on it. Like I said, it's not really our business. We just hope everyone's okay, that
Yep.
he's okay. Um, but just kind of a hole on the Islanders bench there the other day.
Yeah. I was surprised to see it happen. I'm surprised it's still happening. One thing I do, or I should say, I'm proud of people for doing is not prying. I don't see a lot of where is he, what's going on, and that's good. It's something he's got to take care of, and hopefully he'll be back and everything's okay. But for now, he's taking care of business, and just got to respect it.
Yeah. So the hopefully by that time the Islanders play again, he'll be back.
Yeah,
In the meantime, some news kind of right before we hit record tonight on Tuesday was a few changes to the schedule.
yeah,
Some games that they're kind of flip flopping where they are in the schedule to make the Islanders be at home or make it work for the teams that they're playing. So the Islanders and Flyers that was previously scheduled for the 30th. I believe that was the first game postponed, if I'm not mistaken, or the second one in
I
November. I can't
honestly
even
can't even
remember.
remember at this point.
One of the earlier games that was postponed from November 30th is now on the 18th. The game against Columbus, originally scheduled for the 18th, is now moved to where did that go?
The game is moved to at Toronto on the 22nd, moved to the 4/17.
Where's that Columbus game going?
So it was very confusing, the wording of this. And I have it here in a tweet from Andrew Gross. Islanders at Philly on November 30th, now January 18th at 7 p.m. The game versus the Blue Jackets at home on January 18th is postponed.
Oh, that's what that was what was missing in
That's
my
what it
note.
was.
Okay, and then the next one is Toronto on January 22nd, moved to April 17th,
Correct.
and that flip flops with the Toronto game in Toronto on the
Yes.
22nd. Now flip flopping with April 17th.
Yeah, so the
Uh,
the wording was tough on this one for anybody to even inform everyone about. It's like there was a couple of different of the writers who put it out. And I had to read like 4 or 5 times and be like,
Yeah.
wait, one of these games, because
Yeah, it was
it's very
very
tricky.
and it seems like a random spattering. I mean, they might just be going for the low-hanging fruit at
Yeah,
first as far as, like, switching games around, although one of them is just it's postponed. So 1 out of 3 1 out of 4 are just it was an update on something that should be happening in a few days.
yeah,
Um, be that as it may, it now means that in January, 9 of 10 games will be at home,
yep,
which is good. Um, this pause between now and the 13th means there's just 3 games in 25 days by the time they play the Devils on the 13th. That's a little tough.
yeah,
Um, I wonder, I think everyone's wondering how that'll affect him. And Clutterbuck had a really good quote from media availability, I believe. Was it
yeah.
Monday or today? Where he's like, "Oh, I think
Monday.
our older lineup will be able to handle this better," um, which is, a boost to the lineup that everyone says is kind of over the hill, and everyone's complaining about guys being too old. And then I saw something on NHL Network. I think that was today. I think I shared it on the NHB account that was talking about how older rosters are able to kind of withstand these types of things. I
Yeah,
was like, interesting how when we're talking about the Islanders as anybody outside, not really fans of the team, outside of the team, who cares? Everyone's bagging on the Islanders until
yeah,
it's you take that name out of the equation and all of a sudden it's a good thing.
right.
I don't understand how that kind of that logic works and cognitive dissonance and just like not knowing what you just said 5 minutes ago is the opposite of what you're saying now.
Yeah, no, and you know what it is too. Like I definitely see what you're saying. I see it every day. However, I do wonder, after removing myself from, because like I cover the Islanders, and we do an Islanders podcast, and then I remove myself from that mindset, and I think to myself, if I covered the Wild, would I see this as much? Probably not. I think it's just like the rivalry amongst fans in the tri-state, maybe even just Manhattan to Long Island, but
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't know if you would see it as much. I mean, obviously, because you're covering a different team, if you're covering a different team, but I don't know because you and I see it so much. I don't know that somebody who writes for the Wild, per se, sees this same argument.
Maybe not. I think it's just a very pervasive argument in hockey.
Yeah,
Like that age thing, turning 28, it was around Taylor Hall when he was signing, he was 28, 29,
yeah,
with the Bruins or with the Sabres before that, and his time is running out. And it's just very crazy. And I understand the numbers kind of support a certain age and where they're not going to get better. Kind of the problem with Palmieri, many could point to. Although, again, I don't, it, it was such a drastic drop off that it just something doesn't add up there for me. Where like it's got to be, he might just be going through some stuff.
yeah,
Like he's gripping his stick too tight, kind of
yeah.
thing. Not a he forgot to play or he lost his ability in just like a season and a half. Like that doesn't
Right.
seem very likely to me.
Yeah.
Especially with what he did in the playoffs last year. That's just not a that just doesn't seem very likely to me. And I don't quite understand that. But anyway,
Yeah.
speaking of Palmieri, I think he'll be back. He was back skating with the Islanders along with Brock Nelson
Yeah.
Monday morning. It's possible that the whole lineup is back,
It
including
is.
uh, Ryan Pulak by the 13th.
Yeah, maybe on Pulak they keep saying that there's no timetable. They don't necessarily know when.
Wasn't the
And
original timetable December? I don't recall exactly what changed.
it
They
was just
weren't going to
four to
make an
six
announcement
weeks.
from when? November.
Yeah, I don't. It was literally the game before they went to UBS Arena, so November 19th or 18th.
Yeah, so that's part of my confusion. So by the 13th, I imagine he's back. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's back skating in
Yeah.
the next week or early
Well, he was
next
skating.
week.
He was
Or
already
okay,
skating.
with a team or on his own.
I think it was on his own.
Yeah, so I would maybe back with the team. Uh, I would if he's going to be playing on the 13th, he'd have to be back for a few days.
Yeah.
With the team. But we'll see. 4 to 6 weeks, being a little careful and conservative, you make that 8-9 weeks, maybe even 10 for that Devils game to be pushed out quite that far.
Right.
That's more in that 8 to 10 week range. Um, yeah, would love to have this. It would be the first time all season or in quite some time that the entire team is back together.
Yeah. It might be the whole season that I don't think they've all been together at all
Yeah.
yet.
And, speaking about, getting Pulak back and the depth of this team, they are going to need it. I think if they're going to catch up in any way, they're going to need to use some of these guys that have been playing well. The Austin Zarniks that may not be a regular in the lineup, he may need to step in at times. Kieffer Bellows, um, down the line, he may be kind of pushing for Parise's spot, depending on what's going on, or other players in the lineup. Like you might. I think this is as tough as this has been for the Islanders. This may have been a good muscle to exercise for them, and to a
No.
certain degree, they are
Yep.
far back in the standings, right? You can point to only being a certain amount of points back in games and whatever. It doesn't look good. Like they really have to beat these teams in front of them to make it work. Um, but I think they're going to need everybody.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's funny because, like, I mentioned today, we were talking about this earlier, that there was an article that went out talking about, Calvin DeHaan at some point maybe on the move, right? He's been made available by the Blackhawks. And in the same breath, the author who wrote this article did mention the Islanders would be looking for a defenseman. And there were comments about, well, they need to be content. They're not a contending team. Why would they sell assets for, an aging Calvin DeHaan, yada, yada. I understand both sides, right? I understand sitting there and saying, we're in last place. What are we doing talking about buying at the deadline? However, they're only 8 points out of the second wild card, and they're gonna have a lot of games in hand after these 2 weeks to make up
That's
that
the
ground.
saving grace. Here's the actual problem though.
Yeah.
They can catch Detroit. They have
Yeah,
5
yeah.
games in hand on Detroit, and they're 7 points back. But they're now not in the wild card. They're right
No, right.
outside because they lost. I believe they lost to Boston the other day.
Right.
Boston
So
is now
my
in that second wild card spot at
with the
34
same amount of
points
games played.
with the same amount of games played, and that therein lies the problem because because they're gonna win more games, and that makes it even more imperative.
No,
The
I agree
Islanders
with you,
are,
but the Islanders are off for the next 9 days.
yeah, but they've played the same. They're in points. They're far behind at the same amount of games played.
Right.
So
Gotcha.
they're at this point they're just keeping like kind of pace. They're
No,
5-2-3 in the last 10, which is really good. But
yeah.
so is Boston's 5-3-2 in their last 10.
Right.
So
Well, now
they've
here's
both
the thing,
gotten a
right?
lot of points.
Just today, Boston went down with a couple more players on COVID protocol. It's bound to keep happening. And the more those things happen, the harder it is for teams to win games.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
like,
If
I get
teams they can go on a losing streak one way or another, right?
right,
They can rack them up, and the Islanders can go the other way, and that's totally fine. That's going to be the battle. That's going to be their measuring stick.
right.
In addition to that, they have to beat Boston pretty much every single game that they play them this year.
Yeah,
However many times that is, they have to beat them every time.
right.
They
And
can't. They
listen,
can't be 3-point games. They have to straight up beat them.
right.
Um,
And listen, I'm not sitting here saying buy at the deadline, they're gonna make it, there's no doubt. It's not gonna be easy for them to make the playoffs. It's still very much an uphill battle. However, it's not looking as out of the realm of possibility as it was a couple weeks ago. Is that fair?
Kind of knowing where the roster is, as we said, and it kind of coming back, where by the 13th you may have everybody but Pulak, or even including Pulak, or he comes back the following week. Um, it's possible. I think the next stage in all of this is, and last week's guest Kevin Kurz put out another great article on the Athletic, um, and one of the stats that I kind of got thrown around just after he posted that article a few days ago, or on the first. Happy New Year, by the way, everybody.
Happy New
We
Year.
didn't.
We
Me
didn't
too.
yeah.
Me too. I guess. like a little
Yeah.
bit. Not really,
New
but
year, same me.
yeah, not not very different. Just yeah. Anyway, the stat that stood out to me was why I brought up that the Islanders might need that deeper roster, which may or may not lead to a trade one way or
Right.
another. They may free up a spot to bring somebody in. I know that they're near their roster limit. I know that the taxi squad certainly helps. Um, they were near the limit kind of all season to begin with. So they needed to be careful with that. But the 54 games in 106 days, which is a game every other day, 5 and 7s, 4 and 5s type thing. A lot, there's gonna be some more back to backs in there. Um, it leads to a bunch of crazy things. That's where I think the roster is gonna come in, and that's the real uphill battle. Not only are they far behind, but they're playing a lot of games really quickly after really not playing. Which I don't know. How do you feel about that?
It's because we talked about earlier, it's this is actually kind of beneficial for an older roster with players. How many they have that are in their mid to late 30s. However, that means that later there's going to be a lot of games in a short amount of time. So that makes it complicated when you're playing every night or every other night. Um so I don't know, like, the thing that comes to mind for me is, yeah, they're gonna have to play every other night and guys are gonna need rest. Is it kinda like the goalie situation where you have a 1A and a 1B and they are just fresh and ready to go all the time? Because they have that split and they can do that with the guys like, maybe Bellows doesn't play every night and he switches on and off with Parise and that keeps those guys fresh. And same could go for maybe Ross Johnston gets in for Matt Martin every other game, and these things tend to work themselves out. Maybe it's like that,
Yeah,
or
that's how I see it. Or
maybe they tire
Salo with
out.
Chara, or
Yeah,
depending on who's playing well in this and whatever, right? You wanna keep players fresh, although Chara seems to be in favor at the moment. But I
tell you
agree.
what, something about Chara, not bad lately. Like not bad for a while now, actually.
Not He's not noticeable in a bad way. I don't know that
Right,
he's playing particularly well. I'm trying to
right.
keep an
Well
eye on
said.
him. I'm trying to
Yes,
keep an eye on him, but I think that's a few players in the Islanders lineup where don't be noticeable. That's Michael Dal Cole. Don't don't be a liability. Only help. You're there to be there out there long enough to give a guys a rest. That is your job.
right.
It's a hard job. That's not easy to do, right? You got to be ready at a moment's notice. You're playing 10 minutes a night. Char, on the other hand, is playing quite a bit, but
Yeah,
you know, to a certain extent, he's kind of out there to just kind of like mitigate. He's not really adding anything.
yeah.
I imagine his expected goals for is not good. But he's also, maybe his goals against is a little bit better than it was in the beginning of the season.
Right.
Um, so I definitely see that. I hope that they can figure it out because Salo has played well,
I agree.
and getting him reps is only going to help. Um, it helps that there's kind of been another defenseman that we'll talk about later that's really stepped up in a big way that kind of um we'll do some kind of trade talk around Dobson in a few moments, as that might have rearranged some things for Lamoriello. Pure speculation, of course, just kind of noting what's happening.
Hockey fans, DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, has a no-brainer offer that'll make you a winner once any shot gets past the goalie. New customers can bet just $1 on any NHL game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores. The NHL got rid of ties in 2005, so someone is going to light the lamp. If Sportsbook isn't yet available in your state, no worries. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with the DraftKings Daily Fantasy Hockey Contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code THPN, throw down $1 on any NHL game, and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a goal. That's promo code THPN this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Must be 21 years or older. New Jersey, Indiana, and Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
How do you feel about the Buffalo and Edmonton games for the Islanders?
Great. Great performance against Buffalo. That, it felt like they were them again. Really just dominated. I want to say the better part of 60 minutes in that game. For a 4-1 win. Dobson, great. Barzal was fantastic. It was really good to see. He came off COVID protocol and was just right back to it. Like it was like
I did see some moments where it seemed like he was in a little bit of a fog. Early in the game, he just he was trying to work it a little bit. Yeah, I'm not saying he didn't play well in the game.
Yeah.
He is Matt Barzal against the Buffalo Sabres. Like he's going to get a few, right?
Yeah.
Is that the game he had that 6 snipe?
Yeah.
So he turned out to be okay, but I could tell in that first period he was trying to kind of do his rounds in the offensive
his legs
zone.
back.
And getting his legs back. He thought about a turn, one of those Gretzky curls, and he just abandoned it a little bit. There were a couple iffy plays there, but he wound up getting through it. Eventually he kind of turned it on. Or got his legs back, and that was good.
And then the Edmonton game felt like was a tale of two games. First period they were great. Second period it was all Edmonton, and then third period it was right back to all Islanders. I think they outshot them something like 10-2 in the last period. So
they only allowed 19 shots against the Oilers, and I don't even have that in front of me. I just remember that because it was ridiculous. How I think Buffalo got in the 30s, like 37 or 38.
Yeah.
Then the Oilers got 19, and it reminded me of when something my coaches and my grandpa used to tell me that I play up to opponents, but then I also play down to opponents.
Yeah.
Like if we were playing a team that wasn't as good, I didn't step up. And the Islanders, it looked like they kind of got. Granted, they were off for a few days; they were getting their legs back and whatever. And it's usually a lot of low quality chances anyway against any team. But the shot suppression was not there against Buffalo, and it could have just been a little bit of a lapse playing against a team like that and trying to get up for them versus knowing you're playing McDavid and Draisaitl, number 1 and 2 in the league in scoring. You're kind of playing up to your opponent a little bit, so might be the case there. I think I agree that they were the Islanders. Maybe a period and a half, 2 periods out of 6, they didn't look like themselves, or
happens.
The tables turned a little bit. They looked good with just Lane Lambert behind the bench,
which
very focused.
I love that because a couple of things. One, it just shows the seamlessness between the coaches, right? They're all on the same page, which is great. Number 2, I still can't believe Lane Lambert is only an assistant and doesn't have his own team that he's running. And Islander
so
fans
lucky.
Should feel lucky. Very fortunate. Islander fans should feel for having both Lambert and Trotz behind the bench. It's like having, Al Arbor stand next to Barry Trotz and Barry Trotz be the assistant. Lane Lambert is so good at what he does. I can't believe he's not a head coach himself somewhere.
Yeah, and you sit there and wonder how much longer that could go, but I don't know what the financial arrangements are and how that all works and whether he wants to do that. If he just wants to, you want to work with good people on with a good franchise and a stable environment, and that might just be with the Islanders.
I think it's great too that we can confirm that Lane Lambert doesn't go on social media, because if he did go on social media, he wouldn't have gelled his hair in the Edmonton game, because people were loving the no gel look that he had when they played Buffalo and they won 4-1. Everyone was like, Lane Lambert can't use hair gel ever again, which is typical Islanders Twitter. And I thought it was hilarious. But
I think I tweeted that from our account. After Rob Taub tweeted it, and I was like, yeah, I think that's our new thing.
Yeah, but he was right back to the hair gel, right back to the Lane Lambert look. Very suave.
Yeah,
He's got a good head of hair.
great head of hair on that guy. I wish I could pull that kind of thing off.
Yeah.
I've gotten more comfortable with it as I've gotten older. Like I just grew my hair out. Um, I don't know. Maybe we'll go back to I'll be Lane Lambert with a beard for Halloween next year. But they looked good with him.
Yeah.
And even the players, I think Scott Mayfield said on Monday that it's seamless. They've been together a long time. They've been with the Islanders for a long
Yep.
time, where you don't really need to worry about that. Everyone
Right.
speaks the same language. So that was good to see, and a comeback game like that. And that brings us to our sweet little boy Noah Dobson,
Yeah.
who's growing up right before our eyes.
It's crazy.
Um, give me a minute on him. What are you seeing? What are you liking? Where did he come from? Did he listen to us a few months ago when I was bagging on him?
Definitely.
Because I continue to eat crow on that.
Yeah, no,
I'll admit it.
he told me straight up. He said, "I heard what John said. Just think about that every day as I wake up, eat breakfast, head to the rink. I just have him on my mind, and that's why I'm playing better. Just
Yeah,
because,
right.
just because screw you, John. No, no,
Well,
he's
because
just.
I guess I got on his case about
I know.
if for those who didn't listen, to hear that episode, um, I said, maybe it's time to rethink what Noah Dobson could become.
I'm
Maybe he's
happy
not.
you
Maybe
were
he's
wrong.
not. And I didn't want to be right about that. He
Yeah,
wasn't at the time. It was I thought the right question to ask. Who is he as a defenseman? He's not
yeah,
being this. He wasn't very sure of himself. He wasn't moving the puck. He didn't have any authority when he was shooting it. Seemed very timid. I don't want to say intimidated, but a little timid, a little scared, and just wasn't a real asset out there. It was like I don't know what he's not big enough to be, physically intimidating and moving bodies around. Like he's got to be something.
yeah. Well, I
And
mean, he is
here,
now.
oh boy, is he ever!
He's got 10 points in his last 10 games, 5 goals, 5 assists, 4 of those coming on the power play. What am I seeing? He's just playing with confidence. He got the opportunity. I think we spoke about this, an episode or two ago, that he got the opportunity because people went down with COVID and injury, and so he was elevated in his role, and he just saw more ice, and it boosted his confidence, and he's now playing just the best he's ever played at this level. I think he's putting himself in positions that he can't get beat. He's not scared to try and beat a defender as a defender, which is great to see. He's starting to move the puck with confidence. He's skating really well, and he's distributing really well. And then he turns around and he says, "We need to win this game. No problem. I'll take care of it. And we'll
Well,
score the
game time
overtime."
goals, game winning
Yeah.
goals. It was that was great.
Yeah, so
Absolutely
it's
loved
good
that.
to see, you know, listen, I don't want to get ahead of ahead of the 8 ball here, but he's turning into, if he can continue this trajectory, he's turning into what they drafted him to be, 10th overall, 11th overall. They wanted him to be a top 4 defenseman, and if he can play this way every night, he's going to be an elite defenseman in this league. If he plays like this, if this is his ceiling, he's going to be an
Or if
elite
this is his
defenseman.
trajectory at the very
Right.
least. If this is just how he's gonna play and he's gonna
He's still
be
just 21.
and
It feels like he's been around forever.
you gotta remember for a second, did Pulak have 10 points last season?
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Because he scored like a goal.
Right. Maybe two. I could
Right?
check on that,
Yeah,
but
I think that's where like I think his ceiling is in that 30 to 40 range, like Pulak, maybe like Pellick to a certain degree if they can really get him going. But Pulak for sure. They
yeah,
have two guys on the back end getting 30, 40 points. Or, let's just split it down the middle and 35 points each. That's a
Ryan Pulock
huge
had 2
boost.
goals, 15 assists last
Yeah.
season.
So that's kind of incredible
Yeah,
thinking about it. Against weaker competition, considering it was all in the same division.
yeah,
And there's not a lot of great teams in the Metro last year, or you're playing them over and over.
yeah,
So for him not to be able to kind of rack him up there was disappointing.
yeah.
If only for his consistency sake. And so Dobson's doing it in all
Dobson's got
situations.
5 goals, 14 points. He's 3rd on the team in points.
I mean, when's the last time we could, other than Pulak, and I don't know that he's
Granted,
ever that high, but when could we have said that?
the rest of the team isn't, you know, lighting the lamp, but still, having a defenseman 3rd among your skaters in points is great.
Yeah, especially with Bavillier has kind of turned it on here and there.
Yeah,
Um, you're getting some goals and chipping it in. Barzal's playing really well. They've really been the stars as far as kind of racking up the points as of late. Um, and other than Kieffer Bellows, and we'll get to him in 1 second, I have one last question as far as Dobson and the rest of the team is concerned.
sure.
How, if at all, has this changed the Isles' trade targets moving forward? Right? Because we could sit there
Yeah,
and say, you lost Taves, you lost Letty, we need to replace them. Now you kind of have Dobson playing in that role. I'm not saying that the Islanders
yeah.
don't need to also make a trade. I'm wondering if their target for whom they're going to trade for has changed. So you don't need necessarily to shoot as high as a Jacob Chikrin. You go back to a Vince Dunn, or you go back to somebody that's steady Eddie on the back end. You don't have to worry about him. Another Andy Green, not as old, preferably, but is there has that changed for the Islanders at all?
I don't know. Listen, I think that you can't. It won't hurt to have 2 guys who could do what Noah Dobson's doing right now, right? I think they thought, we don't need Nick Leddy's services anymore because Dobson's going to do it. And now that he is, and is it a coincidence that he's doing it now and the team is collected points in 9 of their last 11? Probably not. But there's going to be nights where he's not doing it, and it would be nice to have somebody else who could. You think about the 6 guys right now. Pellick, Mayfield, and Green are strictly all defense. Pulak, when he comes back, Dobson, and Chara. Chara's all defense too. So now you have 2 guys who can provide you offense. You have Salo, you have Aho. Are they going to play every night? Why not? And if they're in the hunt, or if they're not, if they're in the hunt at the deadline, you have to assess what your needs are then. But if you get to the off season, and let's just say you can sign a John Klingberg, or you can acquire a Jacob Chikrin, why not just get the star power? It's something the Islanders have never had before, and I don't know up to this point if that has changed in the organization's mind as to, do we need more powerhouses on this team, or are we distributing the workload evenly amongst the 4 lines and the 3 pairs? I don't just because, and I don't know if it's changed just because of the fact that they all haven't played together this season. So I don't know. Do they need more star power? In my mind, I would say, yeah, why not get the star power? If you can acquire a Chikrin, or if you can get a Klingberg or something like that, do it. Um, but it's definitely lessened the need.
Yes, I so that's kind of where I was getting at. But I, of course, it doesn't hurt to add a good player to your team. I don't think anyone is denying that. I'm trying to get into Lou's head a little bit. Is he going to give up assets for what could be argued no reason ish? Right? Like
Depends on the asset.
I agree, and it depends on the term of the player that you're getting, and all of that, how much they cost, what your issue
Right.
is, what
Because
your
if
what
you're
your issues
acquiring a
are.
Chikrin, you're getting him for 3 years and more because he'll be an RFA. If you're acquiring a Dahan, it doesn't make sense because he's going to be a UFA. You're giving up a future for a possible nothing in a couple weeks. So it depends on what you're trading for.
Yeah, and so you know, I'm a big believer in what the team has put together. I like the construction. It obviously works to a large degree when it's healthy, and that right there is the caveat. And we said this a few weeks back when it's like 1 or 2 players. Am I boring you? This isn't fun for you. You're
No,
yawning now.
I was up really early today.
I know. I'm just busting your chops. Anyway, the I I wasn't on this track, this line of thinking about star power a week ago, but I'm kind of sick of one player being out or two players being out and it just derailing this
That's
team. And I said
yeah,
that a few weeks ago is like it's starting to kind of get to me. And
yeah,
very recently, I'm like, top heavy teams, like you don't want to be the Oilers, where you have two or three guys and a bunch of prayers.
yeah.
That can't be, or they have maybe 5, 6 guys, and the rest are prayers. You don't want that, but like you kind of need some just guy who does their job on the third line. And
Right,
And
because
Austin Zarnik, like you don't need if maybe Bale. I don't know if Bailey was somehow not there and Bellows was just a second line with Villiers and Brock Nelson, and then the third line was just Pajot between two guys. That should be fine. They should be able to work that out. Or Wallstrom,
right,
Pajot, and Guy. It doesn't need to be this
because
like
here's the
very
thing, right?
exact role player. And like I just because as soon as one of those guys gets it that's out, like your third line center, they're very strong down the middle, and I love that about this team. But like Pajot being out should not derail this team.
Right.
When he's out or Zizekas is out, this team is like doesn't play very well.
When
And
teams
it
when
doesn't I don't know. I'm just getting sick of it.
when teams get injuries, usually the superstars are the ones who carry the workload for the little while.
That was
And
where I was getting at.
right,
Can they just get a top of the lineup that can support the team?
right. The Colorado Avalanche lost Nathan McKinnon for a few weeks. They were still at the top of the division because of Gabriel Landeskog, because of Mikko Rantanen, because of Cale Makar, because of Devin Taves. And I didn't want to say that loud. But they're getting the support from their other stars. That's just the way it works. Unfortunately for the Islanders, when there's a cog in the machine that's missing, it's not working because they're a literal complete puzzle. And if you take a piece out, it doesn't work.
Yeah, and that's kind of where maybe it is time to do that, or maybe it's just what we want to
Yeah,
see. I look if they're winning hockey games, I don't really care who's in the lineup. It does not bother me.
I agree.
I'll sit there. I will buy a new Chara jersey if he was, if everyone was playing well and they win the Stanley Cup. Like, fine, I'll buy two. Like, I don't care.
Right,
But the issue is that like one person gets hurt, and it's just like sand in sand in the machine, like a Parks
right.
and Rec reference there.
The thing is, like you said, if Pajot gets hurt on the third line, it shouldn't derail the whole team. And you're right. If the Islanders had a first line of, for argument's sake, Anders Lee, Matthew Barzal, and let's just say they acquired a Johnny Gaudreau, well, you can count on Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Barzal to, I don't know, maybe collect 5 points total in a night to help the team move forward while JG Peugeot is out.
Yeah,
You could probably count on that.
yeah. They're very those role players and the style that they play require very specific players, and it works until it doesn't, and it's now this season notwithstanding, right? Because you had multiple players out for for 10 days at a time, and multiple injuries on top of that with Nelson and uh, Pulak and whatever. It's um it's a little tough, right,
Right.
to judge all of this. But even when we saw last season a player goes down, it was really hard. And you'd think like a Zarnik or a Boudreau or Bardreau rather could come in and fill a Zizekas role or that third line role, and it's like, yeah, we just need somebody to go out there and be a pest. And it's like doesn't work until Peugeot gets there. He didn't score a ton of goals right off the bat, but you could tell that he was the right player for the Islanders. So that's kind of where that things are kind of starting to change, and yeah, maybe they do need some star power, um, or maybe they don't. Is Kieffer Bellows kind of turning into um, another player that we kind of bagged on that we're getting on his case quite a bit? Is he kind of turning to someone the Islanders can depend on in the middle six?
Another case of a player getting minutes and opportunity and just really the opportunity gave him the chance to find his stride, to get a rhythm, and you're starting to see parallels between him and Oliver Wahlstrom. They're both shoot first mentalities, and Kieffer Bellows has a great shot, albeit Oliver Wahlstrom's is better. I'd put it up there with the elite in this league, but Kieffer Bellows is no slouch. He's got a really good shot. He just needed to learn how his speed and his pace would work in the NHL, and it seems like he's finding that now. And not only is he able to keep pace, but he's doing pretty well in the other two zones, not, trying to score as well. So he's looking really good right now. He's got 7 points in his last 7. He scored 2 goals where he made a really silky move and
On
found the back of the net.
off the rush,
Off
both
the
goals
twice
off
off the
the rush.
rush. He
They
kinda
weren't very it wasn't like super
it
fancy,
wasn't
but it was
no, it
very
wasn't fancy.
effortless looking.
It was, what's the word I'm looking for here? He hid the puck well and ripped a shot.
It was a sneaky shot. It
It
didn't
was
look
a
like he was
sneaky
gonna
shot.
shoot.
He's finding his game, which I really like to see for the Islanders because and I wrote this the other day, let's just say this season does go to shit and they don't make the playoffs. You can now, if he continues this trajectory, you can now loop him in with, well, he's a young guy who can be part of the core moving forward. He could
Or he's a
be
trade asset one way or another if it
or
or,
correct.
getting a
Yes.
real Philip Forsberg or
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And that's what I was gonna say, right? You can label him as a piece moving forward. Maybe he's a perfect second line, third line guy for his career, and that's fine. He'll pot you 20, 25 a year. Fine. Or the Nashville Predators love what they're seeing from him. Yes, we'll take Kieffer Bellows as part of a package for Philip Forsberg, and there you go. There's your 30 goal scorer to play with Matthew Barzal. It's
Yeah.
just a great development for the team as a whole. Do I think he should play every night? Yeah, I do. Should Kyle
Right now, there's no reason to play the guys that are hot. Don't start messing
so
around and,
right.
with change this up within an inch of its life and try to figure it out.
They alluded
What's
to
working is working.
they alluded to when Kyle Palmieri comes back, he could end up still sitting, which is probably fair.
I mean, I don't know why you don't take out someone like Bailey, who's been, look, you can get on Bailey all you want. Um, and he did have a few assists recently and all this. So I guess that's really good. But, can you get Palmieri in a different situation? Can you give Bailey a rest? Or something else? Like he's an asset on the team. I don't know that you just keep him out to keep him out.
Right.
Um, but it's definitely definitely tough seeing a guy like that sit.
Yeah. No, I agree
Uh,
with you.
if the team is winning, it's fine. You don't want to see it, but I don't know what you do. If Bellows is scoring, you don't take him out for a guy that's not done it all season.
Right.
Palmieri has
I
one or
find
two
it
goals.
I find it hard to believe that, just because a guy's making a certain dollar amount doesn't mean that he should necessarily play over somebody else if he's not performing. If he's not performing, I don't give a shit what he's making. $5 million, good. Have your money. Sit on the bench because you're not performing. Kieffer Bellows is performing, making 800K. Good for you. Go have a ball. Continue to produce because we need to win games.
Oh, that's 100% it, right? Like it's. I don't really care. Yeah, your point well made. I don't really care how much you're making.
Yeah.
If the team is winning with the lineup that's there, do that.
Right.
Don't start screwing around. That doesn't do any. It does everybody a disservice. In fact, it
Yeah.
doesn't help. It doesn't help anybody.
Absolutely.
Um. So as now that we're getting away from the recent games, they'll get further with each passing day. They'll get further and further. Where it will be in the middle of the dog days of whatever this is. Before seemingly another February pause, unless the things get rescheduled there. As well. So we'll get into some some galaxy brain stuff, some things a little in the clouds here. And you wrote this the other day. So I'm curious for you to kind of elaborate a little bit on here. What defines success for the Islanders this season? We asked Kurz this last week.
Yeah.
Um, so I want to hear you now that you have a chance to kind of elaborate.
There's two ways this season could go. They could obviously either make the playoffs or not. If they make the playoffs, that means that they've already become successful, because to go from where they are now, even from where they were at Thanksgiving, to make the playoffs, they did something right. They got in, and there's your success, right? The players won't be happy with just that. The players will say, we need to claim it all, because we got to the very point last year where it was literally a game before the Stanley Cup. We need it all. Yes, I would agree that that's how the players should feel. If they make the freaking playoffs this year, they were successful, because they started with shit. They were dealt a shitty hand, and now they've crawled and scratched and clawed their way all the way back, and it worked. Good for them. Success. If they don't make the playoffs, success will be, have your core find themselves, right? Have them play consistent games, have them find consistency in their games. And you hope to see, your regulars like Bavillier and Barzell and Wallstrom and Brock Nelson, who's, yes, 30, but he's part of this core moving forward. Even if Kieffer Bellows is going to stick around,
A
you
lot of
want.
points. Nelson's still putting up 20 goals a season.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Like I don't think he's been one of the more consistent Islanders over the last
Right. You want to see that
5 years.
consistency throughout the lineup. You want all these guys. Dobson, you want him to continue doing what he's doing. You know, you want Salo to play more now, right? You wanted to play, not now. I mean, like, if they don't make the playoffs or if they find themselves out of it, you want him playing every night. You want him putting up points if he can, but you just want to see him playing a good game. That will be success for them until the offseason, right? Then the offseason comes, and Lamoriello and Trotz can sit down and say to themselves, okay, we know what we have in these guys. Where do we need to improve? I think no matter what, the improvements are going to have to come on a scorer and a puck mover on the blue line. Can they get both in the offseason? I'm not sure. They're going to have 13 million, just about a little over that in cap space, with just Noah Dobson to sign, who's due for an upgrade or I should say a pay raise.
Oh yeah, in a contract year, he's definitely
Yeah,
putting up
he's probably going
the
to be the
numbers.
only one due for a pay raise. They're going to have to sign Kieffer Bellows and Robin Salo as well, and then they got a bunch of UFAs coming off of the books, like Cal Clutterbuck. They have to make a decision with him what they're going to do. I'm not sure.
I mean, he's got to come back cheaper, or not at
Hopefully,
all, because that
hopefully,
fourth line is was Cizikas is a little bit different.
I agree.
But now that Martin's salary came way down, it's time for Clutterbucks too
Yeah.
as well, so that
So
they can get into kind of that territory that they need to be
yeah,
in.
I think in order
Or
to
not
have
at
a
all. Like Ross Johnson still signed for 4 more seasons after this one.
yeah,
Like I don't know. I don't know.
I don't
I
know
don't know where.
why they would need to bring. I mean, listen, I said the same thing about Martin. He got signed to another 4 years. So anyway, the point is, they would, to have a successful summer, they need to upgrade, and that means that they need to go after two huge free agents who can score in either Philip Forsberg or Johnny Gaudreau. And if they decide to do something on the blue line, and look, if they can't do it via free agency, they're gonna have to do it via trade. Patrick Laine might be available. And then on the blue line, you're looking at maybe they can circle back to Jacob Chikrin, who they have checked in on. They also did check in on Patrick Laine. Both are restricted free agents, and Chikrin has a couple of years left on his deal. So it's going to come costly. But if you can improve this lineup, you have to, because you saw what happened this year. Like we said earlier, when one piece is missing, the whole machine is not working. So I think there does need to come a point where that Lamoriello and Trotz say to themselves, and have that conversation. We need more star power. If they can do that, if they don't need. I shouldn't say it won't be successful if they don't get both. They need to get at least one.
Well, they need to replace Chara and Green, unless Green somehow comes back. So like there's two players there that maybe you bring back Andy Green as a seventh defenseman.
Maybe,
That's fine.
but
If Aho just straight isn't gonna come back and he's an RFA after the season too, so he may be just back in Bridgeport one way or another.
maybe,
Or maybe he's just the seventh defenseman, but you have to replace Chara and Green, and Green's played really well over the years.
yeah.
To your point, of all the and he's really been the one of the more steady defensemen.
If
So you
nobody
got to
knew that he was
find,
38, nobody would care.
yeah, I mean, there's or 39, I think. Um,
Whatever.
Pellick, Mayfield, Dobson, Pulak. Really looking for two defensemen.
Yeah.
If you think one of them can be Robin Salo, who I don't know
The
if you
other one,
mentioned also needs a contract,
yeah,
an RFA. You're looking for one.
yeah,
Could Robin Salo get the Noah Dobson treatment? Um, Salo's older than Dobson by
right.
2 years, so if they're liking what he can kind of dish out, and he's getting the games kind of seldomly like Dobson was his first 2 years, maybe you're only looking for one if you really think he can step
Maybe.
up.
The thing is, the big guys that are going to be available. John Klingberg's going to be there, but he's looking for like $9 million a year. You can't you can't get him and then turn around and say I also want Johnny Gaudreau or Philip Forsberg
Well,
unless
Vegas
something
does
else
it. Why can't we do it?
significant is moving. So I don't know if you want to start talking about if the Islanders are going to hold on to Semyon Varlamov or not, but I think that they will.
So there's we're kind of near this. So
We're going to talk about this later.
Rich, well, no, we can talk about it now.
Well,
Um,
hold on, because you asked me what defines success.
yes, yes. So
I was
let's
getting there
finish
with
that.
my spiel. I apologize. It's a little
Jesus, take
elongated. I
longer.
know, right?
Have you just are you just inconsiderate?
Okay, shortened version. Core plays well the rest of the year, no matter what the outcome. They do get a puck moving defenseman or a sniper or both in the offseason. And then they come back and they get right back to where they left off last season. Not the season that would have passed, but in the 2019-20 season where they made the Eastern Conference final and was within one goal of the two goals of the Stanley Cup. They need to get back there. And if they need to get back there with a little bit more star power and the core guys like Wallstrom and Barzell with a little bit more and Bavilli with a little more experience and consistency, that's great. They need star power in the offseason, and they need to get back to their winning ways in the Trotz system. That's how they are successful in 2022.
I agree with that. Heading into the off season, and then obviously going into the 22-23 season.
Yeah,
Um, a whole other animal. Seems like it is almost literally a year away, but it feels like a very
not that
long
far.
time from now. Well, it's going to be a
Not that
long.
far.
It's not that far, but it's 54 games in 106 days. We're going to be busy. Um,
Yeah.
they make the playoffs. That's also going to be a little bit of a drag for everybody in media, fans, everything. It's going to be a long, half year, 6 months, 6-7 months,
Yeah.
especially if the Islanders make the playoffs. Um, so to kind of tie in what you were saying, you started to talk about Varlamov a little bit. We had a couple fan questions come in, or listener questions rather. Rich Z Isles, who's a longtime listener, I think he's always been great and sending in questions. He asked about a trade for uh sounds like Varlamov for Darnell Nurse at the deadline straight up. I don't really know about that.
No.
Obviously, Darnell Nurse is great. The Oilers wouldn't do that. But I
No.
want to take a step back from all of this and just talk about a Varlamov trade a little bit
Okay.
because I we spoke about that with Kurz last week. I want to point out a couple things. There's no goalie depth here. There's no one to play that's not named Sorokin. Skarek is not ready. You don't want. They've been pretty clear they don't want Schneider in there. If he's just been in and around the team,
Don't even
that's
know
a
where he is
that's
right now.
don't even know where he is right now. That could be an off-season thing if they were to trade Varlamov just to offload it, but then you need to replace it. You need to find somebody
Right.
with that, that could play up to those numbers, that Pierre Greco can get up to snuff with the team. Even if
Right.
Sorokin did play, which has not been the NHL norm to get a line share of that hasn't been with the Islanders for going back again, Grice Halak. That's not been the case, right? Going into this era with Barry Trotz, it's also not been the case for years. So it doesn't seem like they like to do that necessarily. 3-1 seems to be the most Trotz would go, going one way or the other. And if one's hot, right? Or one's not. The goalie playing 3 at this point is Sorokin. He starts not playing well. Orlamo's going to get the net back. But they can do that. They have that ability, that latitude that offers to them that. The last thing is 54 games in 106 days. It's a lot of hockey. This is not Martin Brodeur, Curtis Joseph, any of these guys, Kiprusoff, Luongo playing 70, or Carey Price for that matter, maybe the last goalie really to do this, playing 70 games.
Yeah, no.
In a season. That's just not going to happen. So for 54 games left in the season, you need both your goalies. This is not, if they're going to make an honest run at this, I don't care what trade scenario that you're coming up with. It's got to involve at some point, even with another trade, not with the team. If you're going to do Varlamov for McDavid, yeah, I suppose you do that. You still need to address the goalie situation.
Right.
You've seen that not work in Edmonton. They don't have a lot of things, but they specifically don't have goaltending.
Right.
So having McDavid doesn't do you any good.
Agree.
So,
well,
yes, it does. It doesn't. It doesn't. How many playoff series have they won? Not playing around.
I know.
So, right. But I think that's, look at the Rangers. They've had such good luck with goaltenders, and it's gotten them really far, right? And while my heart goes out to Lundqvist, who I, just as an Islander fan, I'm dying for him. He needs to coach so he can win a cup. I just I need to see he's too good. He was too good of a goalie. It was I always wondered why he was sticking around over there. Neither here nor there. That's the 54 and 106 is my problem. You cannot expect Sorokin to play 40 games the rest of the season or whatever at whatever point Varlamov gets traded.
No,
it's just not possible.
I don't see Varlamov leaving the Islanders until at least his contract is up. Rich, I'm sorry, a Varlamov for Darnell Nurse trade sounds great, but he's the Oilers' number 1 defenseman. He's really good. The value is just not there. So it would take a little bit more, or a lot more, than just Semyon Varlamov. But yeah, I agree with you. The 54 in how many? 106?
Yes.
That's
It's not a game every other day.
We know Sorokin's going to get 3 before Varlamov's going to get 1, and
that's how it is right now. That doesn't mean
going to be
Sorokin drops one that Trotz doesn't like, that they switch.
Yeah,
and like you said, Varley, you get the next one.
Nobody's ready after Varlamov. If they want to get another goaltender, they're going to have to give up another piece that they already don't have their own second rounder. I know that they have the Avalanche's second rounder, but
correct.
You're already now you're losing pieces, and although they're in a win now window, you still want to keep your assets for the future. It's just too much.
You got to make a move. You need to add. They can't be. There's only so much subtraction that you can do from the lineup, because they clearly like the players when it's the roster all together. Even if they, upon the area or a Bavilier getting benched, I think I don't think that means that they're going to trade any of these guys as it stands right now at the recording of this podcast on January 4th.
Yeah.
That does not seem to be the vibe. Not in the locker room.
Yeah. I would be
I don't
very
think
surprised.
I don't think Kurz or Staple could get that vibe, or Elliott for that matter, or McKenzie either, right? Like, no one's gonna know that.
Right.
But it seems like Beauvillier is still getting his shot. They didn't all it's not like Palmieri came back and Beauvillier was back in the press box. Look at Bailey seemingly gets a pretty long leash. You have to be adding to this lineup and making very strategic moves. You're not moving major pieces. That to me doesn't work with their strategy. That doesn't seem to be what that strategy is. Rather, they've only been doing their best really to add, even if some Noah Dobson and Bellows have been a little bit of a surprise. Wallstrom as well. Sometimes things change your plans a little bit. So yeah, I Varlamov to me, I'll maintain until it happens. I've been wrong before. Listened to earlier in the episode about Noah Dobson yet again. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't see it. Ready for question 2?
I am.
John Filippelli, no relation to Karen Filippelli from The Office.
Oh,
from what I understand.
okay.
With the emergence of Dobson, Sallow, and end of Sallow on the less, I should have read this beforehand. It's a little tough to read. Emergence of Dobson, end of Sallow on the less scale of things. Do you think this shifts lose attention to trying to find a scorer instead of a puck moving D man? We kind of addressed that a little bit.
A little bit.
And you know what we didn't say before, and maybe this contradicts something that I said now that I'm like thinking a little bit about it. Palmieri was really like the cream of the crop forward last year, and the Islanders snagged him.
They did.
I'm not saying that
it was him or Hall. That was it.
Yeah, that was it, and it sounded like there was, I forget the Hall situation. I'm sure it's at this point not a big deal to relitigate.
The Hall situation was they had both on the table. It was Hall or Palmieri and Zajac, and they opted for Palmieri and Zajac for the depth.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense, and definitely rings a bell. I don't really know who's a UFA this year, like going into the trade deadline.
Philip Forsberg, Johnny Gaudreau.
I mean,
yeah,
that makes a ton of sense. Like I don't think they go quite that big. I don't think Palmieri's on that.
No,
on that level, but
that will only happen. For a player. That will only happen if 1, they're in the playoffs, or 2, it's the off season and they know that. Well, if it's the off season, they're going to be signing them. So,
yeah, the top of that list of, there's some players too that are just simply going to get re-signed wherever they are. Forsberg's far enough down. He's got 25 points in 24 games so far this season. There's a bunch of different players around that the Islanders could seemingly snag, but I don't really know who that could be. And I question that all the time, right? What does it mean to be a star for the Islanders? Like, what are they actually looking for? what the player that is it a Philip Forsberg, or is it something else? And I feel like we won't know that until they actually make a move. Like, I wonder, Johnny Gaudreau's 28. Like, how long can you really sign him?
Well, that's the thing. He's going to want the long-term security. Now,
they've already done it with too many of those players at that age.
At the same time, Johnny Gaudreau hasn't won anything yet. The Flames are hit or miss, right? They're good this year. Last year, they really fell off. And if they don't do it this year, kind of similar to Tavares, he might just say, I'm going to move on and try and find a different organization that will win. Now, ironically, in the summer coming up, that could be the Islanders and Johnny Gaudreau's eyes. So he could turn around and say, a Barry Trotz led team where I could play on the wing with Matthew Barzal instead of a Sean Monahan, sign me up.
Yeah, and he's from the East Coast.
And he could agree to, yeah, he's from Philly.
So,
He
it
could
says
agree to a
cap friendly says New
4-year
Jersey.
he could agree to a 4 or 5-year deal. And now you're getting him until he's 34. And that's a little bit better. If he wants to sign a deal where he knows he has a short window to win.
I would do 6x4.
Sure. Well,
Just get that
he's not he's not coming for $4 million. Johnny
four
Gaudreau's
mil 4 years at 6 million.
Oh no, he's not doing that either. He's coming at like 8 million. He's a 30 goal scorer. He's going to score 30 goals this year.
I mean, yeah, I can see that.
Both
It doesn't sit
him and
well with
Forsberg
me.
are gonna be in that range. Forsberg's a little bit younger, so if you're gonna throw cash at somebody, I say it's
He's a former. I granted, so 2 seasons ago, the 70 game season, 1920, he had 18 goals in 70 games. Last year he had 19 in 56. This year is 13 in 30 so far, and he's over a point per game.
yeah.
So he's still playing really well. I don't think he's falling off. And
No.
in 18-19, he had 99 points in 82 games.
Yeah.
Is the career high. Still relatively close to that. It's not,
And he wasn't playing with anybody on the same skill level as Matthew Barzal.
No, look. I want it to happen. I'm trying to figure out a reason not to, so I don't get my hopes up.
Sean Monahan is okay. Elias Lindholm is good. Neither of them are Matthew Barzal. And you can say what you want about Elias Lindholm has had more points in a season than doesn't matter. Matthew Barzal doesn't play in that system. If he was playing somewhere else, he would be a 100-point guy every year or close to it. It's just fact. But he plays in this system. If he had a Johnny Gaudreau, maybe they can let him, go a little bit more free and wheel and deal. But he doesn't right now. If he does, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you're definitely pushing some players down the lineup a little bit with bringing in somebody like that. Even if they did it like tomorrow or at the trade deadline or even or in the summer, I guess Parise doesn't need to come back. That would be a huge bummer for
wouldn't
him.
you love a first line of either Lee, Barzal, Gaudreau, or Lee, Barzal, Forsberg, a second line of Beauvillier, Nelson, Wahlstrom, a third line of Bellows, Peugeot, and Bailey, and then the fourth line? Would that not just be the ideal lineup?
That, yeah, I get. You're saying goodbye to Parise. That's a little upsetting.
See ya.
Unless they have the roster room to keep him and Johnston, but you kind of have some other players sneaking up there. Maybe they keep a Parise around. Who knows? But yeah, I think that's ideal. That's a really deep lineup. Are we forgetting anybody?
Zarnik could be a rotator. But
yeah, I think that's that's ideal. I think that's really strong. You're starting to push some of the older players down to that third line a little bit to play with the youngsters. I think Bailey in a third line limited minutes role, maybe some second power play unit time works. I don't think people are nearly as upset with that as seemingly a second line player who's production waxes and wanes.
Right.
So like I said, adding a good player is good. I hate to kind of break it down as simply as that. I wouldn't be mad about it. Until it happens, I just don't know what it looks like for this team.
Right.
Like again, they really shot their shot on Palmieri.
It just feels like it's finally time for
We've been saying that
in the summer. No, it's different now because one, they need it, and two, the circumstances have changed. In not only because they need it, but because of where they play now. Players are going to come to UBS Arena. They're going to see UBS Arena, and they're going to say, "I want more of that." That's why the circumstances have changed, both for team need and now being a destination.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. Um, it's a destination now. We've been saying that for long enough where we couldn't wait, so now it's here.
Now it's here.
Yeah, we may as well, kind of shoot for
Last summer,
the stars.
plenty of players could have been saying to themselves, "Well, I want to see it first." Now every team is going to have seen it. So
For sure. I think I'm done. I think I'm done here. We're gonna get a nice little break. We're belaboring. We're so deep into an Islanders pause and scheduling snafus and whatever that we're like talking about the offseason and trades.
Hey,
and
big guest next week. Excited.
Big guest next week. Yes, very excited. We'll announce that soon. Just down to some nut details.
Crossing T's, dotting I's.
I prefer dotting the lowercase J's. It's a Wayne's World joke.
I know it's a Wayne's World joke.
I say that all the time at work. I'm like, yeah, I'm crossing the T's and dotting the lowercase J's, and people have to really think about it. Like, isn't it I's? Oh no, I guess the lowercase J has the dot too.
I'm gonna start confusing people and telling them I'm crossing my F's.
Yeah,
my lowercase F's
or uppercase F's.
You don't really cross an uppercase F though. You add to an uppercase F, but you don't cross.
Oh my god! All right, thank you to DraftKings. Make sure to use that THPN promo code with our buddies over at DraftKings. Thank you to the Hockey Podcast Network, Isles Fix, and of course all of you, our listeners, sticking through it during this funky schedule situation with the NHL. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to or watch the show. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube at Nassman Hockey. You can also join our Discord for a safe space to chat with fellow Islander fans. Lastly, you can find James' work at the Fourth Period and my work at the Hockey Writers. You can also find some of James' analysis with Isles Fix, which is taking a little break with the schedule. So don't, if you're a dual subscriber to NHP and Isles Fix, we'll be coming back, or they'll be coming back soon, making it all happen. Until next time, which is a long time for the Islanders, let's go Isles.